In the heart of the galaxy, the Galactic Commission convened to bring together the most advanced and intelligent species. The purpose of this council was to maintain order in the universe of life. Over time, each species on the council had established its dominance through intelligence, cooperation, or sheer technological prowess. They were proud of their civilizations and the progress they had achieved. However, the topic of the latest discussion was unprecedented. A new species had captured the attention of the council in a way no one had anticipated: humanity. Their entry into interstellar society had been late and unremarkable. Humanity lacked the advanced technology, psychic abilities, or biological enhancements possessed by other species. In the eyes of the council, humans were little more than a curiosity. Recent events, however, began to shift this perception. Despite their apparent disadvantages, reports of humanity's military conflicts with other species were becoming alarmingly frequent, and the outcomes were even more concerning. Against all odds, humans consistently triumphed over adversaries that should have easily defeated them. The council debated this anomaly, seeking explanations. How could a species seemingly so ill-equipped dominate its more advanced counterparts? Some argued it was pure luck, but this notion was quickly dismissed. Others pointed to humanity's uncanny ability to adapt and survive. Unlike most species, humans did not rely on a single advantage, such as technology or psychic powers. Instead, they adapted rapidly, learning from every encounter and growing more dangerous with each battle. It became clear that humanity represented something entirely unexpected. They were not the most powerful or technologically advanced species, but their unpredictability and relentless determination made them uniquely dangerous. Humanity's brutal efficiency in conflict disrupted the Council's long-held confidence in their own superiority. Initially, the Council dismissed humans as a temporary nuisance, easily contained. But as humanity's victories accumulated, their view began to change. A growing number of council members recognized that humanity was not merely another species to control but an emerging power capable of disrupting the delicate balance of the galaxy. The debate grew heated. Some members called for immediate action, proposing preemptive strikes to neutralize the threat. Others urged restraint, fearing that labeling humans as a danger might provoke them further. The term apex predator was suggested but quickly dismissed by the more arrogant council members, who refused to believe such a primitive species could pose a threat to civilizations thousands of years old. Still, warnings persisted. Humanity's adaptability and drive to survive under the harshest conditions were unlike anything the council had encountered before. They always found a way to turn the tide against their enemies, forcing the council to reconsider their approach. As the debate continued, tensions within the council rose. Some members advocated radical measures, while others remained confident that humanity could be subdued with superior technology and intelligence. But even the most skeptical members couldn't ignore the unsettling evidence of humanity's growing strength. A voice of reason emerged, cautioning the council against underestimating humanity. It argued that dismissing humans as inferior would be the council's gravest mistake, one that would exact a heavy price. As the warning sank in, the room fell silent. The council had faced countless threats throughout galactic history, but never one like this. Humanity's progress was not driven by technological or genetic superiority, but by something more primal: the will to survive, adapt, and dominate. Despite these warnings, the council's arrogance prevailed. They believed a swift and decisive attack would crush humanity before it became a real threat. Elite hunter teams, composed of the finest warriors from each species, were deployed to neutralize key human outposts. These teams, trained to eliminate threats with surgical precision, expected an easy hunt. But this hunt was unlike any they had faced before. The first team of hunters made contact, and something went terribly wrong. Humans did not react like prey. They did not panic or flee. Instead, they fought back with cunning and tactics far more dangerous than brute force. Guerrilla-style ambushes and environmental manipulation caught the hunters off guard. Despite their advanced weapons and training, the once dominant hunters found themselves on the defensive. Humans avoided direct confrontations unless absolutely necessary. They studied their attackers, learning their weaknesses at an astonishing rate. Observing how they moved, communicated, and deployed their technology, humans systematically exploited these vulnerabilities. The hunters, accustomed to dominating their prey, were now being hunted themselves. One by one, the hunter teams fell. The council, expecting quick victories, watched in disbelief as their elite forces were dismantled. The psychological toll on the hunters was devastating. Humans began to taunt them, leaving signs they were being watched and proving that their every move was predictable. What had once been a confident hunt turned into a nightmare of paranoia and fear. In one particularly brutal incident, a team of hunters entered what appeared to be an abandoned human settlement. They believed it to be an easy target. But the silence of the empty streets was not a sign of surrender. It was the calm before the storm. They suddenly found themselves surrounded by explosive traps. Mines, improvised explosives, and buildings prepared to collapse with an order. The hunters, despite all their experience, were not prepared for these types of tactics. When the smoke cleared, the entire squadron had been annihilated not by superior firepower but by the humans' ability to weaponize their environment. The Galactic Council could no longer deny what was happening. Humanity was not only surviving, it was winning. The hunter squads had underestimated their enemy and were now paying the price. What the Council had not understood was that humanity thrived under pressure, which did not depend only on brute force or advanced technology, but on their ability to adapt and convert. The weaknesses of their enemies in fortresses and attacking when they least expected it. The Council, still reluctant to admit their mistake, tried to regroup. They sent more hunters this time with better intelligence on human tactics, but it did not matter. Each new squadron that landed on the controlled worlds by humans was walking towards a nightmare. Humans were always one step ahead when it came to guerrilla tactics, deception, and relentless psychological warfare to wear down the hunters before the real battle began. It wasn't about matching the aliens in technology or brute force. It was about outmaneuvering them and making every move count. Soon, the hunter squads were in full retreat. What was supposed to be a quick and decisive mission had turned into a catastrophe. The Council had seriously underestimated humanity's potential for war. The humans had turned their hunters into prey and were now targeting them one by one with methodical precision. The Council's finest hunters, once revered and feared throughout the galaxy, were now terrified, fleeing a species that they had dismissed as weak and primitive. As losses piled up, the Council was forced to confront the harsh reality that they had created. Humanity was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. They were not bound by the same rules of combat or honor, that they ruled over other species. They fought to win no matter the cost, and they did so with a ruthless efficiency that left no room for mercy. The humans were proving with every battle that they were the true predators in this conflict. The final blow to the Council's arrogance came when a surviving hunter squad managed to convey a message before being completely annihilated. It wasn't a distress call or a report on human strength. It was a warning, a desperate plea to the Council to stop underestimating humanity. The squad leader, wounded and exhausted, he simply declared, "They are not what we thought, they are hunting us." The message sent a wave of fear through the Council chambers. What had begun as a mission of domination had transformed into a war for survival. The Council had awakened something. The Council had gone out to hunt humanity, but now it was humanity that was closing the siege, to attack with the same efficiency and ruthlessness that had sealed the fate of the hunter squads. The Galactic Council had severely underestimated what they faced after the disastrous failure of their elite squads. They were left with no choice but to escalate the conflict. A large-scale invasion fleet was assembled. The largest force never deployed in response to what they had once considered an insignificant species. This time the Council believed that by already overwhelming humanity with sheer numbers and technological superiority, the plan was to crush any remaining resistance before the humans could. Even in this, the Council made a miscalculation when the fleet reached Earth orbit and the human-controlled territories expected an easy victory. They believed that their superior weaponry and advanced ships would lead the humans to the surrender. What they found instead was a war of attrition like none. They were prepared for, but humanity did not confront them directly. There were no major, decisive battles. Instead, they dragged the war into the shadows, forcing the invaders to fight on human terms in environments that were unknown and hostile. Human forces employed tactics that plunged the Council's armies into chaos. Guerrilla warfare, precision strikes, and sabotage became the hallmarks of humans. They knew they couldn't win through direct confrontation, so they didn't even try. Instead, they used the Council's arrogance against him by drawing his forces into prolonged engagements where they could drain their numbers, resources, and morale. The humans turned their cities and colonies into fortresses, but not in the traditional sense. Defend themselves, in a fixed position. They fought from the shadows using hit-and-run tactics that left the Council forces exhausted and demoralized. One of the Council's biggest mistakes was believing that humans would fight like any other species. They assumed that, once the invasion began, mainly the humans would resort to conventional warfare, but humanity had long ago abandoned the rules of combat that the Council knew. Instead, they took advantage of every possible advantage, no matter how small. They attacked the supply lines. They sabotaged the equipment and used the terrain to their advantage. The soldiers of the Council were constantly on edge, not knowing when or where the next attack would be. What disturbed the Council most was human resilience, despite the overwhelming odds against them. Human forces did not break. Instead, they seemed to thrive under pressure, becoming more determined with each battle. They did not have the luxury of Council technology, but they did not need it. What they lacked in equipment they made up for in ingenuity and adaptability. Humans looted enemy communication systems using Council technology against them. They used remains of destroyed alien ships to create weapons and defenses that the Council never saw coming. In one particularly surprising case, a small group of human engineers managed to capture and reverse engineer an alien shield worshipper within days. They had found a way to replicate the technology on a much smaller scale by equipping their own improvised bases with defenses that could withstand the Council's bombardments. This type of adaptability stunned the Council's strategists, who had never faced an enemy capable of learning and evolving at such a rapid pace. The war was not only being fought with weapons. Psychological warfare of humanity continued to wreak havoc on Council forces. Humans deeply understood fear and used it as a tool. Propaganda spread across the galaxy, showing Council forces being outmaneuvered by humans at every corner. These broadcasts, not only images of human victories, along with growing rumors of legendary human soldiers, who could appear and disappear at will, began to circulate among the Council's ranks as they were intended to inspire their own people but were also intended to break the morale of the Council. As the war progressed, it became clear that the Council was not prepared for this type of conflict. Its soldiers were trained for direct combat, but they were not equipped to deal with an enemy that fought on so many different levels. Not only did humans face them on the battlefield, but they also attacked their minds, their resources, and their sense of security. Every time the Council believed they had found a way to counter human resistance, they encountered unexpected new tactics. The Council soldiers began to tire. Their confidence began to make mistakes by overextending their forces in a futile attempt to secure a decisive victory. These mistakes only worked in favor of humanity. Humanity, on the other hand, was relentless. They had transformed the war into a test of endurance in which they prospered. Unlike the Council species that had become comfortable in their superiority, humans had spent their entire history fighting to survive. This war was just another chapter in their long history of conflict, and they were determined to win it no matter the cost. It was not just about defeating the Council forces. It was about sending a message. Humanity was not prey and would not be dominated bid every victory. Every act of defiance was a declaration that they were the true predators in this war. They were proving battle after battle that they could withstand anything the Council threw at them, and they weren't afraid to fight dirty if it meant winning as the Council's forces faltered. The advantage they launched a series of coordinated attacks against key Council installations, crippling their ability to sustain the invasion. Entire fleets were stranded, while human sabotage teams destroyed fuel depots and communication relays. Council ships were once symbols of their dominance. They became vulnerable and easy to attack by the human assault teams. The Council had believed they could crush humanity with sheer force of numbers, but they had not counted on the tenacity of their enemy. They were learning too late that humans were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win, and they didn't care how much. However long it took, the great invasion of the Council was turning into a costly disaster with no end in sight. By this point, even the most arrogant members of the Council could see the reality. Humanity was not a species that could be easily conquered. They were the ultimate predators, and this war of attrition had shown it beyond a doubt. Every move the Council made only strengthened humanity's resolve as the Council's forces weakened in battle after battle. The humans were not only resisting, they were advancing. The Council had lost control of the war, and they knew it. It had begun as an effort to eliminate a perceived threat. It had failed spectacularly. Now the Council's lasers were the ones fighting for their survival, and humanity showed no signs of backing down. The bitter realization finally set in. This war would not end in a victory for the Council. Humanity had become the apex predator in this conflict, and they were ready to see it all to the end. The Galactic Council was cornered. What had started as a confident attempt to crush an emerging species had become a nightmare from which the Council's forces could not escape. Their supplies, depleted and at their lowest point, humanity, once seen as a minor annoyance, had become its greatest threat. The war had lasted much longer than anyone had anticipated, and now it was the Council that was fighting for your survival. Every plan you had designed had been countered by the ingenuity and ruthlessness of the humans. Now, faced with the stark reality that their dominance over the galaxy was crumbling, the calculating and determined human forces began their final coordinated assault against the most critical systems of the Council. Unlike the previous invasions of the Council, this attack did not have as its objective the conquest of territories. The objective was to dismantle the power of the Council piece by piece until there was nothing left. The humans had learned from each encounter, refining their tactics and exploiting every weakness the Council had. His attacks were precisely directed against the infrastructure that kept the Council's vast war machine running. Communication relays, supply depots, and key defense systems were systematically destroyed, plunging the Council into chaos. Some who were once so sure of their superiority were now divided. Some still clung to the belief that they could win if they simply devoted more resources to the problem. Others, more realistic, understood that they had already lost human forces. Not only were they waging a military campaign, but they were also carrying out psychological warfare. The Council soldiers were exhausted, constantly questioning their every move, and the Council leaders were fractured. The relentless assault of humanity had shattered their confidence, and the cracks were beginning to show. Desperation took over the Council as they faced the collapse of their entire structure. They made one last attempt to negotiate. Messages were sent to the human leaders offering concessions, peace, anything to stop the destruction, but humanity was no longer interested in negotiating. The betrayal of the initial invasion had sealed its fate for the humans. This war had become something personal, a matter of survival and revenge. They knew that anything offered by the Council would be temporary, an opportunity to regroup and attack again. Humanity had no intention of giving their enemies a chance to rebuild. As the final strike teams descended on the core worlds of the Council, it became clear that this was no longer a struggle for control. It was the end. The Council fleets were weakened, its soldiers scattered, and its defenses in disarray. The human forces, with surgical precision, dismantled the remaining resistance. They had become masters of this war, and now there was no doubt who the true predators were. The ruling world of the Galactic Council, once considered impregnable, was the ultimate goal. The human fleet arrived not in overwhelming numbers but in a coordinated and calculated force. They did not need to occupy the planet or claim it for themselves. They simply had to destroy the last vestiges of Council power. The capital city, symbol of Council rule for centuries, was reduced to rubble in a matter of hours. The Council leaders, once revered throughout the galaxy, were now nothing more than fugitives, hiding in the ruins of their humanity's own arrogance that had made its point clear. They had faced the most powerful governing body in the galaxy and emerged victorious, but not only had the Council been defeated, the entire galaxy had witnessed the fall of a regime that had ruled for centuries, brought down. by a species once despised as primitive. Humanity had shown that it was not to be underestimated and was capable of much more than anyone had imagined. As the captured council leaders were brought before a human court, the galaxy held its breath. The remaining members of the council, broken and defeated, tried once again to plead for their lives, offering anything to avoid the consequences of their actions. But humanity had no interest in mercy. The betrayal of the council, the invasion that had nearly exterminated their species, could not be forgiven. It was not just about revenge, but about ensuring that no one would ever challenge humanity. Again, the human commander standing before the court delivered a message that resonated throughout the galaxy. Humanity declared, he was not the prey in this war. He never was. From the moment the council decided to attack, they awakened something much more dangerous than they ever imagined. Humans are not bound by the same rules that govern the rest of the galaxy. We have been forged in the fire of survival, and that has made us the supreme predators. The judgment was swift. The leaders of the council, once so powerful and feared, were condemned for their crimes against humanity, but the true sentence had already been passed. The council, as a governing body, was dead. Its fleets were in ruins. Its soldiers were scattered, and its worlds were now vulnerable to chaos. That once sought to control humanity had not only defeated. The council had dismantled its foundations with the fall of the Galactic Council. Humanity assumed a new role. They were no longer an emerging species trying to find their place in the galaxy. They were now one of the most powerful powers. Feared and respected, their ability to adapt, fight, and win had given them a place at the top. But this was not just about power. It was about survival. Humanity had fought not to conquer but for its right to exist, and in doing so, they had demonstrated beyond any doubt that they were apex predators, the apex of survival in the galaxy. As the remains of the council worlds fell into chaos, humanity stood as a symbol of resistance and strength. Not only had they survived, they had prospered, and now, with the galaxy watching, they made it clear that those who had doubted them would not be challenged again. Those who had tried to dominate them learned the hard way that humans were not prey. They were hunters, and anyone who dared to cross their path would face the same fate. That the Galactic Council, the galaxy, would never be the same. The balance of power had changed, and humanity now occupied a position of dominance that few would have predicted, but this was not just about power. It was a lesson for the rest of the galaxy. The war had proven an undeniable truth. Humanity was the ultimate predator. They had turned the Council's arrogance against them, using every mistake and underestimation to their advantage. They had shown that technology alone was not enough to win a war. Survival required something more. It required the ability to adapt to resist, and to attack when the time was right. As the remnants of the Council worlds fell into chaos, humanity stood as a symbol of resilience and strength. Not only had they survived, they had prospered, and now, with the galaxy watching, they made it known that they would not be challenged again.